Hi there, my name's Tom from OpenCRM, and in this webinar I'm going to try and show you how the campaigns section of OpenCRM works. So to start with, a little explanation. So we've got a module in the system called campaigns, and this is the area that you can use to send an email or a series of emails to a targeted audience in your system. Within that email you can add things such as open tracking to check if someone has opened an email. You can add click-through tracking, so if someone clicks on a link in your email you can see who's clicked and which link they've clicked on, that kind of thing. We've also got unsubscribes, so if someone wants to opt out they can do so. And we've got the ability to manage email subscriptions, so if you've got different audiences, for example, different newsletters, you can give people, give your contacts, give your leads, etc., the option to opt in and opt out of various subscriptions. Okay, so that's the overview. So when you're putting a campaign together, there are 4 preparation steps. The first one is a simple one, so I'll demonstrate that to you now, which is to actually create the campaign. Got a start date, we're going to drop in an end date, and we're going to set the status of in progress. At this point in time, that's all I'm going to do. So the campaign itself is really a placeholder. It's a place where you're going to add the audience, or in certain terminology it might be called your list, and you're also going to associate a particular email template, so the email that you want to send to that particular audience, which might be different to different email marketing campaigns that you send out. So I've done step 1, which is to create the actual campaign. There are 3 other preparation steps. First of all, you need to build your email template. Secondly, you need to add click-through links, opens, unsubscribes, etc. into the email. And the third step is to create your audience and add that audience to the campaign. Now you don't have to do those, so there's 2 sort of separate components really. One is building the template and the second is getting the list/audience together. Doesn't really matter in which order you do those in. So if you've got someone that's in the graphics department, for example, they can build the template, and meanwhile someone in your office that's doing the marketing, that's finding the email recipients, they can do that at the same time. It all comes together when you've got all the components in place, and then you're ready to send your campaign. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is show you how you can create the email. So from your system you'll need to go to settings. So you'll need to be either a system admin or a configurator in order to access settings. So if you don't see the settings option on there, you'll need to speak with one of your system admins to get that enabled. And then in this area you're going to go to communication templates, and we've got email templates right here. So you've got a couple of options. If you just want to create a template that's plain text, no bells, no whistles, just click on new template and you can just write the wording. Bits that you need to be aware of: you need to drop that template into a folder, likely to be in marketing. Give the template a name and give the email a subject. And effectively you could save that. A couple of other bits and pieces you might want to do: think about who is actually going to be sending the email. So if I'm logged in as myself, then when I do the send of the campaign, it will send from my email. If I populate from name and from address along these lines, then this is the address that the email will be sent from. So if you've got a dedicated marketing or a sales address that you want the email to come from, then I would recommend that you pop that information into the from name, from address section of the template. If you want to add, quite often people want to add things such as a sales PDF, that kind of thing, to the email. You've got the attachment section right here. So click on this folder icon and you can select an attachment, and when that's saved, each time you send this email, that PDF will automatically be attached to the email and will go out to all the recipients. So that's the basic no frills template. Normally when you're doing marketing, you want a template with a bit of formatting. There might be some images in there, there might be some calls to action, some buttons, some social media actions, icons, that kind of thing. So basically we recommend that you use a tool called Stripo to manage that. Stripo is a third-party template design tool. If you don't have a Stripo account, you can just simply click this link. It takes you straight to the Stripo page and you can create an account. So I've already done that. So let's hop over to my account. And within Stripo, a couple of things that I'll show you. So first of all, there are templates that you can use. They're pre-configured templates. They've got lots of designs, so you can get inspired by the tools that they've got available. These will depend on the level of subscription you've got in Stripo. So more of that in just a second. I'm going to show you a template that I've already pre-designed. So hopefully if you've used a tool, let's get this open, if you've used a tool such as MailChimp, that kind of thing, to build email templates, then this type of interface should be familiar to you. So over here on the left hand side, you've got various shortcuts, different tools that you can use to drop components into your email, and then in here in the body of the email you can see the bits and pieces that I've built. It's pretty straightforward to build, it's quite intuitive. You click into the block, then you get that on the left side panel, you can see that it's updated the panel to reflect that component. You can change things. So nice and straightforward. Let's go back to black for that one. And if you wanted to edit the text, just simply do so. And there you go. So build your template, nice and straightforward to use. You've got a couple of testing tools. So when you're building your template, you want to see what it looks like. So you've got some of these options in the top here. If you click the test option, it will default to the email address that you've got on, that you've used to set up your Stripo account. So you can send yourself an email, you'll receive that and you'll see what it looks like. Or you've got this preview icon here, and it shows you a couple of examples what your template would look like on mobile, what it would look like on desktop. So you've got a couple of options there for previewing. Let's come out of that. So that's your template designer. Like I said, it's pretty straightforward to use, and you've got lots of components and they've got lots of predetermined templates, so there's loads to get you started, give you a bit of a head start without having to start from scratch. Okay, so the next thing you'll need to do is get that template out of Stripo and into OpenCRM. So this is where it's important. We recommend that you get a paid for Stripo account. Just simply opens up a lot of features. So I'll show you that. If I click on export, then I can see a couple of options. So for this demo on my test system, I've got a free version of Stripo, and I'm quite limited in the functions that I can do. I am able to do the bare minimum. I'm able to do what I need, so I can send myself test emails, I can preview as I've just showed you, and I can export the HTML and copy that HTML into OpenCRM to add it as a template. If you've got a paid subscription, then you've got the option here where you can export the template directly into OpenCRM. You can see here I'm not allowed to make direct exports as I haven't got that paid for subscription, so I do recommend that you get a paid subscription. So what I need to do is I need to export the HTML. So a couple of things to think about here is that for my free account, you've got 4 exports that you can do per month. I've already done 1. So try and get your template as finished as possible before you do an export, because if you make a couple of changes, export, make a few more changes and so on, the export again, you'll very quickly run out of exports available and you'll have to wait till the next month to be able to do that. So quick tip there is to get your template as finalized as possible in Stripo. That also means if you've got images in your newsletter, first of all, make sure that when you upload the images, they're in the correct size. So if you've got an image that you want to be, for example, a thumbnail, then don't upload a huge image and then resize it. Make sure that your original image is the right size. So the reason for that is that some email clients, they will read the source of the image. So they will look at the original image and they will render that in the size that it was originally configured. So when your recipient gets the email, they might see instead of that thumbnail image, there'll be a huge image because it's reading the original size. So do have a think about the sizing of images before you put them into templates. That's whether it's if you're designing the template in OpenCRM using the HTML designer there, or a tool such as Stripo or MailChimp or whatever. Do think about saving the images in the appropriate size before you upload them to your template. Okay, so what I can do now, so I've showed you that what I can't do, so let's look at what I can. So I've got the option to export the HTML code, and there's my HTML. I'm going to copy that. So now if we hop back over to OpenCRM, click New Template again. So last time, if you recall, I just put my text in there. What I'm now going to do is open up the editor here, click Source, which takes me out of the visual editor and into the source code. There's some pre-populated source code there, so Control and A to highlight that, and then Delete to get rid of that, and Control and V to copy across the source code of my template from Stripo. So if I come out of the source code, set that to full screen, there you can see we're in OpenCRM and you've got a template that looks very, very similar to the one that we had in Stripo. So let's minimize that. We'll do the same steps that we did before. Choose the folder, give the template a name, again, if you want to send this from a particular address, then you can do that. And again, if you want to add an attachment, you could do that right there as well. So we've got our template, and I can save that. So that's the various ways that you can add your template to OpenCRM. So like I said, the recommended path would be get a Stripo account, build your template using Stripo, export to OpenCRM, and there you've got your nice looking template without having to do any learning of HTML and that kind of thing. So that was step 2 out of those 4 steps we talked about. Step 1, build your campaign. Step 2, build your email template. The third step, adding your links into the email. So when I talk about links, I mean click-throughs, I mean open tracking, unsubscribe, managing subscriptions and that kind of thing. So let's show you how you can do all of that good stuff. So we've got a tool here, we've got a click-through wizard. So let's say that what I want on my template, if someone clicks on the OpenCRM logo here, I want that to take them to our home page. So I'm going to go to the click-through wizard and I want to create a click-through. Does what it says on the tin. When a recipient clicks a click-through link, an activity will be recorded against that recipient in OpenCRM. So click-through. So which page do I want the person to go to? I want them to go to my home page. I want it to create an activity in the system. I also want to be notified that an activity has been created because it might be something that I want to act on right away. Activity, I can choose the status. In progress, not started, means that the activity will sit in the pending tab of the linked campaign. Done means it would sit in the history. User ID, this is worth thinking about. If the person that is actually physically sending the campaign is also the person that's going to manage the interactions and the results, then email sender is perfectly fine. You don't need to change anything there. If you've perhaps got someone dedicated that manages campaign feedback, you could set that so that any of these activities and notifications go to a specific user. Or maybe you want so you've got your contacts or your leads assigned to your sales people and you want the interactions to go to the salesperson, so the person that the records are assigned to, then you set it to the record owner. Then last couple of bits and pieces, subject. So this is useful if you've got lots of different links in your template. The subject will tell you which link the person has clicked on. So let's call that the logo. So you might have, if you've got, well, I'll show you, you've got social media icons, you probably redirect to your Facebook page and put your subject in as Facebook, for example. And then lastly, which campaign do you want to associate the stats with? You can leave that blank if you don't want the campaigns to go to a particular campaign, but you just want the stats to be accumulated against the recipients. You can leave that blank, but normally you'll be doing this from a campaign. So we'll do this, I'll show you. So that's the campaign that we've just created. So we've got the URL, we're creating activities and notifications. They're going to go to the person that's sending the email. This click-through subject will be logo and the campaign ID is webinar. So now we've done all that, let's let the system do the magic and it's going to generate our link. All you need to do now, copy that link, minimize that window, and we'll go to the component in the newsletter that you want the link to go to. Click this icon here and paste the link that we've created. So there you go, we've now got a click-through link that's stored against or behind that image, as it were. You can have click-throughs, you could store it against text, as with before, just highlight the area, click the link icon and drop your link in. So again, if you've got your Facebook URL, click on the logo, click to add the link, and away you go. The next bits and pieces, so that's the click-throughs. You can also track if someone opens an email. So to do that, we'll add open tracking to this. Again, we'll use the click-through wizard. On the menu, select open tracking. Again, you've got activities and notifications. Now, bear in mind, if you're sending a campaign email to 1,000 recipients, the likelihood is high volume of those people will receive the email and will open it. So you probably don't want to receive activities and notifications to let you know that 750 people have opened the email. That will clog up your email account and it won't be productive. However, if you are doing a very, very targeted campaign, you're sending it to maybe 10, 20 people, that is more useful to know who has actually opened an email if you wanted to do some follow-up interaction. So I'll leave that up to you whether you fill those bits and pieces in. But what is useful, populate the campaign ID. So I want to see against the campaign how many people have opened this email. Again, click generate. And this time, no need to copy and paste that, just insert into email. What this is actually going to do, it's going to drop a invisible image, a 1 by 1 pixel image into this template, which doesn't affect the look and feel of your template, but it's what the system needs to track that open. The way that that works is that when your recipient receives the email, generally their email client will need to open text, open images in order to render that email so it's visible to you. De facto, by doing that, that's opened the image, which is that 1 by 1 pixel hidden image, therefore that's going to track the open. So that's how that works. The last couple of bits to talk about then, so of course you've got, have I put this in? Yeah, we've got an unsubscribe there. So give your people the chance to unsubscribe. So we're going to select remove me, choose the campaign, generate that link, copy that, minimize this, and pop that link into your unsubscribe. Okay. So the way that unsubscribe works is that if someone clicks that link, it will do a couple of bits and pieces on their user record. So I'm going to show you a user. I'm going to use this last viewed section and open a contact. So on a contact record, you've also got the same on leads and companies. You've got contact restriction. So you've got this option here, do not email. If someone clicks on that unsubscribe link, then it will automatically update their record with this information, do not email equals yes. What then happens subsequently, if I try to email this person, then I get this warning message, and that prevents me from accidentally emailing that person. If I wanted to email this person for another reason, let's say that it's a client of ours and we need to send them an invoice reminder, then I do have the option to override that and send the email anyway. What this also does, if you've got Isabel in this example added to a subsequent campaign, when you go to send the campaign, it will recognize that she has unsubscribed, and so it will skip sending that email to her. So we'll talk about that in just a second, again about building your lists, who to include, who not to include in campaigns. So let's go back to my template just to show you that. So as you've seen, the template hasn't changed at all, but in the background we've got that open tracker. The last bit that I want to show you is the concept of subscriptions. So rather than having that blanket subscribe / unsubscribe, you might have a model whereby you've got different types of newsletter and you want to give your client the ability to pick and choose which newsletters they receive. So effectively your recipient can opt out of a newsletter without having that overall unsubscribe. So the way that subscriptions work, if we go back to my contact record, you can see here we've got a field for subscriptions. So these are the subscriptions that Isabel has subscribed to. Using the Manage Subscriptions tool, let's minimize this again so I access the click-through wizard. Manage email preferences. Then you can give the recipient the ability to unsubscribe from a particular campaign. Choose to display the different campaign options that they've got. Remove them from lists. You can generate that link a bit how we did before. Copy the link, and we're going to drop this into that My Subscriptions section. So there we go. So we save our campaign, our template. So what we've got in here now, we've got a link to our home page, we've got a link to the subscriptions area, and we've got a unsubscribe that's all set up. So that's a few bits and pieces about the email template. So that's steps 1, 2 and 3 of the campaign. We've got section 4 to think about, which is adding your audience to that campaign. So I'm just going to show you that right now. So adding the audience to your campaign, you've got a number of options available. You can add leads, you can add contacts, you can add custom contacts, and you can add companies. Now you can use one campaign to email all of these different groups of people. Basically the email will send to all of those areas, so this is quite unique in that it will send an email across multiple modules. For example, if you're sending to leads and contacts and companies. Generally, I wouldn't really recommend that you include contacts and companies on a campaign, because the likelihood is that you've got a contact that's going to have the same email address as the address that you've got stored on the company record, so you might end up sending the same email to them a couple of times, which doesn't make you look very good. So for this example, I'm going to send an email to contacts. At this point in time, you can see we've got no one on the campaign. Just to quickly show you another section of the campaign, so on the information tab, so if you recall, this is the bits that we populated earlier. We put the status of in progress, put a start and end date. Now you can see we've got this whole section here, success benchmarks. We've got another section here for the return on campaign, success benchmarks. So those bits and pieces that we added into the template, so the click-through links, the opens, unsubscribes, that kind of thing. Once you sent your email, first of all, you'll see the number of emails that you'd tried to send here. Successful emails will show you those that have actually sent. Paired with that stat, you've got bounces. So bounces are emails that were not successful in the send. So it might be that someone's inbox is full. It might be that someone's left the company, so that email address is no longer valid, is no longer in use. Or you might have some errors in the syntax of the email address, so you've got apostrophes or spaces in there, that kind of thing. You've mistyped the name of the person, so it's actually going to an address that doesn't exist. So that will be a bounce. I can show you as well. So if we look at, let's do this really quick. On a contact record, when you've sent an email, and if that email is bounced, then you'll see a couple of bits and pieces on a contact record. We've got this section here for email bounce information. That will actually show you if we'd sent an email to Isabel that hadn't managed to go through. You'd see that address that we tried to send to right there, and it would tell you the date that the email was bounced. So what you can do, you could create a view, which I'm just going to do in just a second, and you could use a view to show me all contacts where the email address has bounced, or perhaps all contacts where the bounce happened on or after a particular date, so the date that you sent your campaign, for example. So that's your emails sent, emails successfully sent, emails that failed to send. Then on the logo, we put a link to my homepage, if you recall. If someone clicks on that, that's called a click-through, and that statistic will increment in this field. So if I send that email, one person clicks through that link, that lands there. That is a unique click, so one person's clicked, so you'll get click-through 1, unique click 1. If that same person looks at the email again, clicks on the logo again, you'll get 2 click-throughs. Because it's the same person, unique clicks is still 1. Okay, so that's useful to know. You can see how many clicks you had in total. Unique clicks, how many different people clicked on your different links. And then you've got the open tracking, same deal. How many people opened the email, and if you've got someone that keeps opening it, that number is going to go up. It won't increment the unique opens number. Alright, so let's have a look at the people that we want to add to the campaign. So one thing that I do when I've created my campaign, I will tend to add myself or a contact with my email address onto the campaign. So we go to contacts. I've got a contact with my email address on there. I'll select that contact, go to this box here, add to campaign, choose the campaign, and click OK. So now you can see we've moved out of the contacts area. We're on the campaign. We've got one recipient that's got my email address. So what I tend to do, add myself to the campaign. I'll send myself the email that we've looked at. I'll do all the clicking, click on the links, make sure that the links work, have a look at the stats, make sure that the numbers are going up so that I'm confident that the email is doing everything that I want it to do. When I'm happy with that, what I can then do, remove myself from that campaign, and then I can add my audience. So that's pretty important. Do your testing, because the last thing you want is to add 100 people to a campaign, send it out, and then realize you forgot to put the links behind the images that you wanted to link to. So test, that's what I can say. So let's hop back over to contacts. So on this test system, I've got 364 people. Let's say that I want to email all of those people. Then I want to add them all to the campaign. A couple of things that I can do. So one is, at the moment, it's displaying 20 records. If I tick this box here, that's going to tick 20 records. Click add to campaign, that will add 20 people to the campaign. I could use this drop down, select all. That's going to take a little while to load up those 300 plus addresses. Same deal here, tick that box, scroll to the bottom, and add to campaign. Now this starts to get impractical if you're emailing thousands of people, so you won't get the options available in this drop down, and it will take a while to load a screen with 5,000 people, and it will take a very long time to scroll to the bottom of that. So an easier option, instead of having to tick, is you've got a view, which I'm going to show you in just a second, and then at the bottom you've got this option. There we go, I should have switched that back to 20, but there you go. You've got this bulk add to campaign. That's going to grab everyone that was in that view that we had. Same thing we'll do as we did before, choose the campaign. Very quick note, this shows you recently modified items, so it's all the campaigns that we've created recently. If your campaign isn't displayed in this list, the chances are that it was built earlier than the recently changed section, so you can do a search for it and you'll get your campaign. So choose the campaign, add the recipients, and you can now see we've got those 364 people on the campaign. So now what we could do, we could send this. Before I do that, if I just look at this campaign, something jumps out at me. I've got people on here without email addresses. So if I send this email, first of all, it will try and send X however many emails. Afterwards, when we're getting our stats, you're not going to get accurate stats because you think that you're speaking to 364 people. You've only actually sent 340. Therefore, if you're working out percentages of how many people have clicked, how many people have opened, you're going to be off from the outset. So let's go back to contacts. Let's remove all of these people, and I'll show you how to use a view to get a more defined list and add that cleverer list to the campaign. So let's hop back over to contacts. So we're going to create a view. Very simple. Again, these features are often restricted to admin users. There is an option to add the ability to create views for all users, which is a setting. But if you can't see this option and you're tasked with putting your campaign together, then do speak with your system admin so that either they do this for you or they give you permissions to do that yourself. I'm going to create a view, give this view a name, webinar audience. Then you want to choose who can see this view. So if it's just something that you're using for yourself for sending the campaign, it will pre-populate the user that's creating the view. If you think actually this view is useful to various other members of the team, then give those people the ability to see that view as well. Then choose the columns that you need to see in the view. So just going to keep this simple: first name, last name, company name and email address. So if you recall, I wanted to remove contacts in my system that don't have an email address. So nice and simple, we use an advanced filter, set search conditions to further restrict the list, and we're going to use the filter email address is not empty. If you wanted to add more filters, so you just want to filter on contacts where the contact type equals customer, for example, you could do that. You can keep adding more filters. Basically, you can filter on any field in the contact module so that you can really build a dynamic list as opposed to having far too much information and then having to strip it out manually once the people are already on the campaign. Do that work beforehand. Another tip, so here I've just put email address is not empty. Quite often if you've done an import and you've had a system where the email address field has been mandatory, people might put wrong information in there. They might put TBC, for example, in there. So another tip, maybe just show all contacts where the email address contains the @ symbol. Then you've got the ability to sort the results. In this case it doesn't really matter because I'm going to add everyone on the view to my campaign, but for example you could sort the results by company name ascending. So save this and I'll show you what it looks like. So you can see we've got a few less people on the campaign, on the view, sorry. This is just everyone with an email address. So now what we can do, we've got the 321 people, bulk add to campaign, same as we did before. And there we have the campaign with 321 people. All right, so that's all of the prep steps. Step 1, create the campaign. Step 2, create an email template. Step 3, add click-throughs, opens, unsubscribes, etc. to the email. Step 4, add your audience to the campaign. So the last bit is to actually do the sending. So from here, click the email campaign button. Normally when you're sending an email from OpenCRM, you'll see the recipients in the to field. When you're sending it from a campaign, it will just display the name of the campaign. This is because if you're sending a campaign to, I don't know, 5,000 people, then you're not going to want to try and load 5,000 names into the to field. That just wouldn't be practical. Then the next steps to do, you can see this is the default template. It's not the one that we want to send. We want to send the template that we built. So select email templates, and we're going to choose the template that we created right there. So that's our email. Now we've got a failsafe built into the system. So if I hit schedule send, first of all I get a warning based on your whether you've got a bulk email subscription or not. Then you'll get a warning here. You can agree to that one. Then you'll get this next warning: highlighted fields cannot be empty. So this is quite often where people have a question, because they think, actually that's the only field that I can see that's highlighted. I've got that filled in, why am I getting that warning message? So in that scenario, click this option here, and you can see that the send date and time field is also mandatory, and that's blank. That's blank for a reason. It's because we don't really want you to be rushing the send of your campaign. So imagine you built your email Friday afternoon, you've added your audience Friday evening, and you just want to get it done and dusted. So you click, hit send, and you realize actually I hadn't selected the right template. So it's just a little bit, it's sort of like a handbrake, as it were, that you have to take off, because we want to make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row, as it were, before actually sending the campaign. And then if you think about it, if you're sending a B2B campaign and you've done all the work on a Friday afternoon, you added your template Friday evening, you're probably not going to want to send your B2B email on a Friday evening, because your recipients are going to read it, it's going to land in their inbox for them to read on Monday morning. People are busy on a Monday morning, so your email won't be a priority. They'll probably just delete it, or they certainly won't read it, because there'll be all those important personal emails to deal with first. So what we can do here, you can use this calendar icon to choose when you want to send the email. So it's Friday right now, so like I said, not an ideal day for B2B emailing. Maybe I've done my little bit of research, and Tuesdays at 11 AM is a great time to start sending the email. So I'm going to schedule this for next Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Then what I can do, so I've done everything that I need. I've got my audience in there, I've chosen the right template, and I've set the send date and time. So now I can hit schedule send. Get that first warning again, that's okay. The second warning, you'll notice, didn't pop up. Now we've got the campaign. If I scroll to the bottom, we've got the email tab. We've got our email is now scheduled, and on the 12th of July at 11 AM that will start to send. So if you recall, we had the name of the campaign in the to field. What this will do, it will process each of those names of the individuals on the campaign one by one. It will send them individually. So in the email, if you wanted to have a bit of personalization in there, so dear contact's first name, here is your newsletter, blah blah blah, then OpenCRM can cater for that. So it's called a merge variable. We've got an FAQ with a list of merge variables. Drop them into the newsletter, and then you'll send your email. It says dear contact's first name. When I receive it, it will say dear Tom, here's the rest of your newsletter, etc. So do search our FAQs and search for merge variables, and then you'll get a list of the values that you could put into an email to customize it, which is a popular way of making sure that your newsletters gain a bit more traction. So like I said, this is scheduled. We'll start to send at 11 o'clock, and then once it's done, you'll have a status of sent. That lets you know that the email's done and dusted, they've all gone. If you see a subsequent email with the status of send fail, then that will list the emails where the recipient didn't manage to send the email to the recipient. So that is another way of getting a list of unsuccessful emails. What you can then do, you can fix the emails that are obviously wrong, delete the ones which are no longer exist, and then you could maybe resend the emails that you've corrected. Alright, that was 3/4 of an hour, so I think in terms of attention span, that's probably enough to be getting on with. I hope that's given you a bit of insight into the full A to Z of how to manage your campaigns in OpenCRM. When you've watched that, I do recommend, as I said, the important thing is to, when you've created your template, test it, send it to yourself, make sure it all looks good, make sure the links work, test the unsubscribe, make sure that the contact that you've clicked from gets that do not email ticked, make sure that that works. Be happy with all of that before you actually do the proper send, because you really don't want an email that isn't correct to go out and then have to send a follow-up campaign apologizing for the previous campaign. Okay, one last thing, if you followed all of this video and you're still stuck, then we've got a couple of resources available to you. So if you see the green icon in the bottom right corner, click on this. That will take you to our search, our knowledge base. So you could search for example, email merge variables. And that will return the article that you will need to learn about merge variables, which values you can use, etc. So it pops it in the side panel. You could also click the icon to expand and open it in a new window. And secondly, if you are still stuck, then you've got access in the same panel. You've got access to our live chat. And you can type your question and one of the team will get back to you. Okay, that's it. I hope you found this useful and thank you for watching.